Minister for Electricity in the Presidency, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, says South Africa risks implementing higher stages of load shedding if Eskom halts the burning of diesel for electricity generation. Last year, the power utility spent billions of rands on diesel to increase generation capacity and to mitigate against the blackouts. However, Ramokgopa warns that the economy stands to lose more money should the SOE stop the practice. He says the cost of unsaved energy to the economy amounts to about 500 billion rands per annum. Now, let's discuss this further. We are now joined via Zoom by Professor Hartmut Winkler, energy analyst and physicist at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Of course, the big question is, can the electricity minister end load shedding? I mean, we've been told that his main task is to reduce the country's rolling blackouts, but it's not the only thing on his list, would you say? I mean, where do you think he should then begin? Of course, notwithstanding that there is that energy action plan that's already in place that he has to implement.
Yes, well, I like that he's been honest up front. When he was asked by when are you going to stop load shedding, he was quite open and said he's not going to put a date to it. And that's because he knows that this could take a lot longer than most people in the country hope. So I think it's good that he's taking this approach. And yes, we'll see how it proceeds. The main thing he needs to focus on are things like electricity planning, a function that has until now been in the Ministry of Mineral and Energy Affairs. That, even though I'm not too sure if all these roles have been properly defined yet. I guess at this stage he's still trying to look for secretary advisors and that sort of thing. I don't know if the ministry is fully functional. I went to see if they have a website yet. They don't as such, although it does mention him as a new minister on the government website. So these are the sort of things that he's going to have to start off with. So he's not going to be able to do very much immediately, but he needs to. I think the crucial thing is we haven't had an updated electricity plan now in this country since 2019. So that's 4 years now. The plan is supposed to be updated every 2 years. Indicated late last year that the had just begun, but I'm not sure how far that is. So that's something that the new
Unfortunately, we've lost Professor Hartmut there, of course, talking about the electricity minister. Prof, are you still there? Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Yeah, sorry, I don't
Prof,
know
let's continue here. I mean, many have said that, it's not ideal for 3 departments to deal with the energy crisis, namely, of course, the Department of Public Enterprise, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, and now, of course, this one, the Ministry of Electricity. Where do you think the areas of overlap are, and how this new ministry can then focus its attention on that, and in order to succeed its mandate? I mean, you mentioned of a plan that hasn't been updated since 2019, as an example.
Yes, that should definitely fall under this new minister. And I think that was indicated when President Ramaphosa first introduced this post in his SONA speech. So energy planning should fall under Minister Ramokgopa. I'm also wondering if the National Electricity Regulator of South Africa would fall under it. That would be a logical thing to happen. But many of the other functions are going to involve a coordinating role. For example, one of the things which is holding back us getting out of this crisis is that it takes a long time to order and to import certain equipment that is needed. And that goes from, on the one hand, from solar panels, which people are trying to buy and are just finding in very short supply at the moment. And on the other hand, also spares for the Eskom coal power stations, which are responsible for the load shedding. Both of those are being held back, partly by simply that there's the process of getting these into the country is too slow. So I guess he's going to be looking at that aspect. Another thing that it maybe hasn't been thought about all that much is that once we have and many people are now looking to install solar panels, whether these are very large organizations or just simple households, there's not that many people around that can actually do that. And what we really need is some sort of a plan, some way of making sure that the whole process is more organized, that there's more people there. That will maybe involve special training courses and that. Launching 3-month skills upgrading for people. That, of course, also helps unemployment. That's the sort of thing they'll need to be looking at. So the minister has been very much described as a project manager, both by the detractors and I think even by himself. But that's ultimately what it's all about. This is not so much about making measured political speeches. It is really about trying to unblock bottlenecks.
And I mean, in order for him then to project manage this mammoth task, no doubt, one would imagine then, that he would use those identified 5 crucial interventions that have been, mentioned in the Energy Action Plan. You've also mentioned them, Prof, in this interview. One would imagine then the state of disaster can then help him, cut through the red tape and ensure that, these 5 crucial then interventions do come to fruition. Because, I mean, not too long ago, we were told that if, in fact, this Energy Action Plan is implemented and implemented well, we could see the end of load shedding in about 18 months' time or so.
Yes, well, we had on the one hand Minister Mantashe talking about 6 to 12 months. We had the Minister of Finance talking about 12 to 18 months. I think the best we can hope for is that in 18 months' time, we might look a little bit better than what we're doing now. I'm pretty sure load shedding is not going to disappear for another 5 years. In fact, even if at this time next year, we are more or less on the same levels of load shedding as we are now, I think we've actually done fairly well. And it's a case at the moment of more of stopping the decline. And then I think we can only hope for improvements from about this time next year. It's also because the assistance we need in order to get the more power sources involves building things. And specifically, solar plants take about 18 months to build. Wind plants, maybe 2 years. Other things, probably more. And so these things take time. So, and I don't believe that most of the coal plants can be fixed that quickly. With Kusile, which is responsible for the biggest problems right now, the fact that it's not functioning amounts to 2 to 3 stages of load shedding. That they've already indicated they're not going to be able to fix that by the end of this year, probably. So, as a result, these sort of things are going to be hanging with us. And let's face it, just before COVID, which is 4 years ago, so we had load shedding. If we can get back to that stage in 3 or 4 years' time, then I think we've done all right.
Prof Winkler, thank you so much for your time and your analysis on the program Energy Analyst and Physicist at the University of Johannesburg there, Professor Hartmut Winkler.